Siamo a Bergamo per un meeting incentrato sulla ricerca di base e sulla ricerca clinica avente come obiettivo il CD38, un target molecolare fondamentale per la cura del mieloma multiplo, ma non solo, perché si stanno esplorando anche altre possibili applicazioni. Una di queste è la leucemia linfatica cronica e noi ne parliamo con Anil Paulus della Mayo Clinic di Jacksonville in Florida, che abbiamo incontrato a margine dell'evento. Professor Paulus, could you please explain to us the role of CD38 in CLL?
Certainly. CD38 has a complex role in CLL. We've long known that clinically it confers a poor prognosis in our patients. But how exactly does it do that? That is something that has been a bit of a mystery. My group and several others have, over the last few years, tried to unravel that mystery. One of the things that we found is that CD38 is expressed in a heterogeneous manner in CLL, not to the same levels as it is in multiple myeloma. However, there's many other cells that express CD38 in CLL, and particularly the T cell population, and more specifically, the T regulatory cell population. In fact, there's a correlation between the number of CD38 expressing CLL cells and the number of CD30 expressing Tregs, which are highly immune suppressive and essentially create for a much more permissive environment for the CLL cells to grow. The role of CD38 is further complicated in CLL by the fact that we only have two drugs with which to play with, so to say. Our group has investigated one of these drugs, daratumumab, the first-in-class monoclonal antibody to CD38, in combination with ibrutinib. And while responses were initially encouraging, the depth and duration of response was not very promising. And so that leads us to believe that perhaps the role of CD38 is yet to be fully understood through further experiments as well as some clinical observations that we are currently making.
Professor Paulus, you said that the presence of CD38 is not homogeneous in the CLL cells, so it's different towards multiple myeloma. But in which percentage of patients you find the CD38, and which is the importance in terms of prognosis of that patients?
I'd say about 30 to 40% of CLL patients are classified as what we would say CD38 positive. What that really means is that by flow cytometry, when you examine the cells, there's a cutoff of 30%, meaning that if 30% of the CLL cells express CD38, we call them CD38 positive. The percentage of CD38 positive patients, as I had mentioned before, is about 30 to 40%, and these are the patients that tend to have a worse overall survival compared to CD38 negative patients, more aggressive disease, typically associated with other genetic aberrations that again lead to that poor prognosis.
And there are drugs who works better in this 30% patient who express the CD38.
With the newer class of drugs, such as ibrutinib or venetoclax, they work irrespective of CD38 expression. So our hypothesis originally is that you could use an anti-CD38 monoclonal antibody or CD38 targeting drugs, and perhaps you will find a better response in patients who are CD38 positive. We have yet to still conclude the results of the hypothesis, but those investigations are ongoing.
Based on what you have already said, there is a future of CD38 targeting in CLL.
Yes. By no means are we finished with CD38 in this particular cancer. And as I mentioned, it's an issue that I think plagues many other diseases, not just CLL or myeloma or other pathologies, where you only have two drugs currently to target CD38, monoclonal antibodies that are poorly understood, actually. And that's one of the focuses of the meeting today, is that, well, what do we do? How do we come up with the next generation of molecules that bind to CD38 and inhibit certain parts of its activity, whether enzymatic, structural, or both? The second comment I'd like to make on that is that perhaps it's the combination, the right combination is what will really be effective in our patients with CLL. similar to, again, what we've seen in multiple myeloma. And so that's another area of interest for our group. And lastly, I'd say that perhaps CD38 is more relevant in the earliest stages of disease, as it is taking root at a subclinical level. And there are several experiments underway in my laboratory to really test that hypothesis.